8:09. The time in the studios of Q95 FM radio. All right, we're raring and ready to roll. Good evening, welcome to the In the Spotlight radio show, your anniversary show celebrating 9 years on the air here on Q95 FM radio. Facebook came a little ways later, but we started here, right here on Q95 May 13th, it was a Monday in the year 2013. We are 9 years old. It's unbelievable, but yes, we've been here that long and we continue to keep going, God willing. So by the time this time comes around next year, we will be 10 years old, 1 decade on the air, God willing. Of course, we've had lulls and breaks, along the way for various reasons. But I think we've had well over 250 shows over the years or more. We thank you for always being here and supporting us. I want to thank and extend gratitude to all those of you who've supported this show in one way or the other. Whether it's simply by listening and tuning in on a Monday night when we're on, whether it be tuning in via social media since we introduced the Facebook Live. I mean, we don't do anything fancy, it's just a tripod and a handset that we stream from. It's a one-directional shot, but we make it happen. And so we've been here and we are here and we will continue to be here. We wish to encourage you and to ask of you that you follow our In the Spotlight radio show page. This is where we originate the show from. So just go to search for In the Spotlight radio show and you will get our page. Remember to follow us. Go on, react, comment, whatever you choose to do. We welcome whatever feedback that you give. We also have a group, a fans page as well. So we encourage you to search for ITS Radio Show Fans and go there and become a fan of ours. My YouTube channel, it's a personal YouTube channel, but I put on the shows of In the Spotlight on there. Once the show is done, either the same night or the next day, I download from Facebook and I put on YouTube. For now, we're doing this via Facebook, so, but still go follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube. It's for Dinah F. Frampton. Your support will be appreciated. If you would like to make a contribution to this show, you can do so. If you're outside of Dominica, you can do so via Cash App using Spotlighters. No R, SPOTLIGHTERS, and you can make a contribution there. We also have Mo Banking. Our Mo Banking ID is 235-7565, and we also have an account number 100069592. That's the account number. If you choose to contact me, if you want to send something using the other platforms, that is also fine. The show's number is 275-7565. Acknowledging a few folks, Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited, we thank you for providing us with our Twapito water tonight. This is appreciated. We thank Q95 for allowing us this time slot on a Monday night to do this with absolutely no interference. You know, I think one time Mr. G gave me little plots and said, you know, Fidina, you have to try to end on time. Outside of it, that's it. There is absolutely no interference with my program. Mr. G gives me carte blanche to bring whoever I choose to on his radio station on this program. So Mr. G, thank you for the support. Kalaloo House Restaurant and the Great Old House, thank you to Steve and his team. Dominican News Online, Akim Lowe, Jordan Jerome, our friends and supporters. I have some really good friends and supporters of the show. You know, there is one particular friend of the show who helped us to get some t-shirts, the first set of t-shirts that we got to raise some funds. And again, with the mugs, there's another friend of the show who almost every month, you know, every month sends a contribution to the show. So I just want a few more friends like that. If we can get a few more friends of the show like that, then we're good to go. We'll be definitely good to go. So thank you everyone for your support, our fans, our friends, our viewers. We are really, really, really happy to have you join us for the In the Spotlight radio show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the guest tonight is quite the gentleman. Quite the gentleman. And I am really, really, truly happy to have him joining us on the program tonight. Now, I am not going to make him sit here much longer, waiting for us to acknowledge his presence and to welcome him to the In the Spotlight radio show. It is his first time here. And somebody said to me today, I want to get the exact message that, and I know she's listening, this lady who sent me this message, and she said, long overdue. All right, my dear fan and friend, nothing happens before its time. Always remember that. And so I think it's the right time to have this guest in the spotlight tonight. We're coming back after this very short break, and we're getting ready to chat with Mr. He says Athie, you know, he's fine with Athie Mate. Thank you so much, JL. I hope you're having a fantastic evening. I hope you tuned in as well to the program. 8:19 is the time in the studios. Welcome back to the In the Spotlight radio show. Wherever you are tuned in tonight, it is our absolute pleasure to have you join us in whatever part of the world. If you're listening via the airwaves of Q95 FM radio, we're truly happy to have you. If you're tuned into the Facebook Live, we're also happy to have you as well. Remember, you search in the Spotlight Radio Show, you go there, you follow us, you like us, whatever the case might be, and make sure that you get your notifications when we're ready to go live with our various programs on a Monday night. His full name is Atherton Martin, but he's quite fine with just Athie. And so tonight, it is my pleasure to welcome Athie Martin to the In the Spotlight Radio Show. Good evening to you, sir.
Hey, how are you doing, Tyler? It's my pleasure, really, not yours. It's my joy to be here, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yes, I am looking forward to it as well, Athie, because I know Athie, Athie has been recently involved in this walk. Athie is somebody, it's a name that we know. He's an environmentalist, he's an agronomist, but how much do we know about the man and his life story? And this is what we're going to speak about tonight. And of course, we're talking about all elements of his life story, as much as he's willing to share with us on the program tonight. But we are ready, we're like sponges, we're ready to soak it all in tonight. So guys, thank you for tuning in, and don't forget we're celebrating 9 years on the air. Feel free to extend some happy anniversary greetings to us via the Facebook Live as well. I love you guys, so much, especially those fans and friends of the show. It is a real pleasure to be here to do this for you. So Athie, again, welcome. I'm going to allow you the opportunity to say good evening. I know you don't want to start calling names and saying good evening, but I know you would want to say a special good evening to the lovely Faye.
Well, I know Faye's listening, and I think she's listening, with her recording equipment. And I know she's listening, having spoken to her closest friends and said, I think you guys better listen to this, because I've been telling you all about this Frenchman that I married 53 years ago, and so on. So anyhow, Athie wants to say hi to Faye. That's one of the fullest and brightest spots in my life so far. At 76, I can look back on being married to her for 53 years.
Whoa!
But knowing her for much longer than that. So literally, most of my adult life, Faye has been a part of my life. First as a friend, then as a girlfriend, then as a lover, then as a wife, and then we grew into friends, lover, wife, etc. Because you would notice, some of you, if you have children, you may want to get them out of the room. Faye and I have been married, divorced, and remarried.
Okay, I did not know that.
There you go. So, but it's a great journey. It's a great journey altogether, and it's a journey based on an honest and frank assessment of a relationship as it evolves. No relationship stays on a straight line.
Exactly.
Things happen in the lives of the individuals that, for one reason or another, cause a divergence of the paths. And there's, one of two ways to deal with it. You can grin and bear it and cause more harm, or you can say, hey, look, maybe we need a break. And having had a break, and then you
reassess.
You discover, that hey, this is really worthwhile. This is, and you start making a break all over again, and so that's what happened to us. And I look back on it. Of course, there are rough times and there are tough times, but on balance, I would say that we wouldn't be in it if the balance wasn't favorable. And so far, we got married in 1969, August 23rd.
I wasn't born yet, Athie.
Well, there you go. August 23rd, 1969. And there you go. So we're good to go. I mean, Faye's a tough, beautifully tough lady. You don't mess with her. And she instills a certain kind of discipline in anybody around her because she is so super disciplined.
Right.
And so it's great to have somebody like that like a sergeant major, literally, you know, in your household, then make sure that stuff gets done as it needs to be done. And of course, if you're like me, who doesn't always do stuff the way it should be done, you get told right away. You know.
What did that experience teach you, though, Athie?
Well, it taught me something that I started learning as a child at my home, because I always marveled at the relationship between my mom and dad at the house. I never saw my mother and father quarrel. And I lived in the house until I was, what, 20, you know, 21. My mom loved to talk. And it got to a point where Dad would tell her, okay, Enid, I'll be right back. And he took a walk. That was their cool-off strategy. And then when he came back, things got back on an even keel. I don't think they just shoved it away, but they were able to deal with it in a balanced way. And I learned myself, and I'm sure my siblings also learned, that it takes two to tango, it takes two to quarrel, it takes two to fight. If there's one person, somebody's misbehaving, but the other person is not engaged, that kind of stuff. And for me, in all my relationships, even with my own children, and certainly with my wife, and even in my business relationships, there are times when you have to back away, even when you know you are right. Even when you know your point is going to prevail, back away and allow space and time for the other party or parties to come to that realization, and then you go forward together again. But winning is not everything. And those who learn that lesson early, like I did, you can back away. For instance, you can resign from the most exalted positions in any business and not feel away, because what you are doing is maintaining your balance and allowing the institution to rebalance itself. So, that's one of the things I've learned. I also learned that you never really fully understand your partner, no matter how long you live with them. And that's a good thing. I think full and complete knowledge of somebody is a formula for boredom. I like to be surprised every now and again, you know.
Suspect face smiling at that.
Yeah, and she knows how to do that, you know. Like last night, just a little example, you know, we had a little dinner to eat and so on, and then I saw she put something in front of me, but I couldn't figure out what it was.
Right.
You know what it was? A sweet tamarind.
Oh.
And so in little things,
yes.
you know, but she has found a way to do that, even when I have been at fault,
yes.
which I've been a lot,
yes.
you know, and so I've learned to mature in, you know, my fault making. I've learned that it doesn't make sense to lie. Yeah. I've learned that. You always get found out.
That's a good one.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I hope people are listening.
You always get found out.
Yes.
And
some way, somehow. Maybe not this time, but the next time.
Absolutely. And frankly, when you know you've told a lie and you don't own up, it eats you up. And it makes you a less nice person, less productive person. And people don't want to be around those kinds of people. So owning up is good. It's tough, yes, but it's good.
Deal with the repercussions of your actions.
Absolutely.
Speak the truth and own up.
And learn to do that. It's a skill.
Yeah.
You know, some people, for example, have to learn how to say, I'm sorry, and mean it. And other people have to learn to say, okay, I accept your apology. Because accepting the sorry is just as important as the person giving it. And so these are bits and pieces of things that I have learned and have tried to apply, you know, in my personal as well as in my public life. The other thing I've learned is that no man is an island and nobody is indispensable. The only being that is indispensable is the Almighty Father. That's the only being that we cannot do without. but anybody else, any situation can manage without you.
Mm-hmm.
And once you accept that, what it does, it humbles you. You take a look in the mirror and say, you know, big shot. You're not so big shot after all, you know. You can walk away and the company will still go along, notwithstanding the importance of your contribution. And to me, you see, those little things that were taught in our household, not by Daddy putting us to sit down and telling us to sing, but by he living it, and Mommy living it. And for me, the bigger lesson it taught me, for Dinah, is how important it is to be part of a household, to have a family. It is precious. It is a treasure to live with people who you know you can trust, who you know care for you, look out for you, will be there for you, will correct you when you're wrong. And what it does, it teaches you about sharing, teaches you about how to give and how to take. It teaches you about not elevating yourself beyond anybody else, finding that kume, balance in your family, because then everybody goes forward, as opposed to you. No matter if you're a star in basketball or football or in music, you know, that doesn't make you a star in the family, because the family is a stage that no matter how big a star you are, you're not there yet.
You're not there yet.
You know, so I've learned about the value of family. And it's interesting, as I've gone on in life and work experience all over the world, I've realized that the people who really do well in management positions and leadership positions have, even if they've come from a materially poor family, but have had such fundamental lessons taught to them and learned by them, that they learn about punctuality, they learn about teamwork, they learn about giving to get, and so forth. They learn about caring and about showing care. They learn about you have to do what you have to do to get your job done, because other people depend on you getting it done. So lessons for life, lessons for leadership at every level, the corporate world, the political world, start at the home.
At the home.
And what that tells me is a society that ignores the family or allows deterioration of homes and family, allows single mothers to struggle all on their own without any backup systems or whatever, is a society that actually is casting its own demise, because that's where your leadership comes from the home. That's where your creative minds come from the home. That's where your disciplined people come from home. If they don't learn it at home, it's not going to be learned anywhere else. Because if the school is going to be asked to install those values and behaviors in the children, the school doesn't have the capacity or the time to do that. So the one thing I've learned, to go back to your question really, is how important family is. And for me, family is not just daddy, mommy, and brothers and sisters. Family is, some of my non-biological friends are as deep with me in family and family sense as my brothers and sisters, my biological brothers and sisters. So what you learn in the family is what is true friendship, because you become friends with your brothers and sisters as well. You become friends with your dad or with your mom, which is another dimension. And so, you know, the mutual respect that evolves out of that is, to me, that is the secret formula for a thriving society, a peaceful society, an enjoyable society.
And quite powerful way that we started tonight, Athie, and I really truly thank you for sharing, especially as it relates to your personal life and marriage and your wife. I thought that was really powerful, and I really thank you for that. And that, continuing along those lines, where you mentioned your mom, Enid, and we're going to talk about your lineage, your heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you come from? I always heard people say Athie Mate. Now, mind you, Athie, I thought people were just saying Mate instead of Martin. But you just said earlier on in the program that Faye married this Frenchman.
That's correct.
So I suspect you have to take me along along that journey of where you came from.
My grandfather on my father's side was a Frenchman.
Your grandfather
Yeah.
on your father's
On
side.
my father's side. So my father's father was French.
Mm-hmm.
As a boy of 9, he was brought to Dominica
From where?
from Martinique.
From Martinique.
His family had moved from France to Martinique.
Okay.
And then Montpellier,
Mm-hmm.
volcano,
Right.
eruption,
Mm-hmm.
1902. So he was brought here. He met my grandmother, and then our Dominica leg of the family began. You know, I had six aunts, and my father was the only boy of his father, and so on. But French to the hilt, my grandfather was. He spoke French, he spoke, yeah.
Do you, Athie?
No, I don't. In fact,
Auntie Paul?
no, because I had a bad experience in school with the teacher, a French teacher, and it just kind of created a mental block, and I never overcame it.
Oh my.
Yeah, I can tell you about it.
Yes.
But, you know, but back to Grandpa.
Yes.
He came here. Grandpa was a barber.
A barber.
That's what
He
did.
cut hair.
He cut hair.
Mm-hmm.
He cut the hair of humble folk and of the governor. So he had a really interesting mix of people coming to his barber shop, which was on Market Street, where the family.
So the governor came to him,
Yes.
not him going to the governor.
No, they came to him to have, because he had this big special barber chair and reclining, and he did shaving and all that kind of stuff. You know, that's what he did. But he was somebody who always wanted to be in agriculture, it appears. And so he rented land at Mont Bruce. I don't know if you remember where the Royal Bank house used to be.
Mm-hmm.
That was his garden. So he barbered in town, and he had a little garden on Mont Bruce. My granny, his wife, she was a seamstress and worked at home. And all my aunts were also trained to sew. But most important in that house, okay, Grandpa had horses, that was his transport, and he kept a stable downstairs. And after Grandpa died when my father was 16 years old. So when Grandpa died, they converted the downstairs, they got rid of the horses and converted the downstairs into a factory.
A factory producing what?
Producing tablet, peppermint, coconut cheese, Loga, Gouda cheese. They made a full range of local sweets, local candy. That's what they did. And I don't know if you remember the Carib Cinema.
Yes, yes.
Remember the lady who used to have the little bit showcase selling sweets and candy?
But that I don't remember, but I know of the Carib Cinema.
That was one of my aunts.
Okay.
And so she had negotiated, and so she had a concessionary point in the lobby of the Carib Cinema. And so she marketed and sold some of the local sweets right there. And they also had a storefront, actually in the very place where my grandfather used to barber. They turned the barber shop into a storefront where they sold sweets. So at any time of the day or year or whatever, you could go in there and buy local sweets. The sweets were not imported. Coconut cheese, coconut tablet, hashi, tablet, gouache, all kind of things. And so we, as the grandchildren, we grew up, you know, really loving those things. So that's my grandfather And my sister Maureen, and I think she's listening, she's in Florida. She's
Okay.
listening.
I hope she is.
I told her about it. And I told her I was going to talk a bit about this. She's been the one in the family that's kind of trying to get that, the links and build the family tree, and da 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 da. And she's still working on it because there's some doubt about where Granny came from and whether it's Montserrat or St. Kitts or wherever. So that's been investigated. But there's no doubt that in the household there was a strong French influence.
Okay.
Strong French influence.
In what way, I think?
In many ways. In the cuisine,
Mm-hmm.
in the fact that, for instance, wine was always served,
Mm.
you know, and that's where we as little children were introduced to alcohol, but under controlled conditions, and none of us really became alcoholic because it was, you know, served properly in the right little glasses and so forth and so on. That's why people call me Mrs. Sacre Bourgeois.
Oui, papa.
You know what is that, eh? When your grandfather is a barber and your grandmother is a seamstress and your aunts make tablet and to sell, if that qualifies me to be a bourgeois, so be it.
So be it.
So be it. And I'm
Drinking your wine.
I'm drinking my wine no matter what. But you know, I do recall that there was patois was spoken very richly in that household, and my father spoke very, very good patois.
Okay.
And my mom a little less, because my mom's story, she's a Riviere, and a connection to Riviere with the Rivières from Maho, and that's all family, you know, because her father, Jim Riviere, you know, was a Frenchman also. So I'm French on both sides.
You're fully French.
So that's why I like wine, I like women,
You like.
and I like music. You know, my wife knows that. She so don't feel any way. You know, and that these were the qualifying characteristics of a genuine Creole Frenchman.
Yes.
Okay, and of course other things, sports and whatnot. So I really had access to a home, a grandparents' home that was rich in culture. Didn't deny it, didn't castigate it, but encouraged a lot of conversation. And I remember that distinctly. You know, everybody was allowed to air their views, no matter what. Even if you didn't know really what you were saying, but you were given a chance to say it. And I appreciate. I learned in later life to appreciate that openness and that transparency, and encouraging the full engagement of people at the table in conversation and so on. The other part of the family, on my mother's side, okay, my mother's father, French, Jim Riviere. My mother's mother appears to have come from one of the Leeward Islands as a young girl, and then she migrated soon after my mom was born and went to the US and never returned. Okay. So
you're saying there's some question as to exactly which one of the islands she came from?
Yeah, there is, and my sister and others are looking into that. You see, for me, it would be interesting to know, but it's not really so important for me personally, because really, when I look at who I am and who my brothers and sisters are, and all that, somebody did a pretty good job, you know. And even if she didn't spend as much time with us as a granny as we would have loved, she made her contribution through my mom, who was always there, and my mom also was a seamstress. So my daddy was a civil servant. He worked at the customs. And my mom was a seamstress. So when I say that, a lot of people appear to be surprised because they look at me. Some call me the little red boy from Roseau, or petit bourgeois, this and that, or hoity-toity. They don't know.
Well, they're knowing tonight.
Because, you know, and as I always tell people, it's not what you wear, it's how you wear it. You know? And I watch my dad, you know, how he took care of his clothing, how he took care of his shoes. you know, polished every shoe of his every weekend and put them away. We all grew up doing that.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't understand why, but we knew, well, if Dad is doing it, it must be all right, so we did it.
Mm-hmm.
And my son, Adrian, is 100% like that.
Yes.
He takes care of his clothes as if he's in a clothing store. Make sure all the pants are folded according to crease and so on. So that, to me, that's the value of family. It's passed on generation to generation. And that's what I think we are missing out on. And that's why we appear to have an increase in dysfunctional children who are stressed out by any hint of a challenge, and children who succumb to temptation of one kind or another, whether it be drugs or the sex or
violence,
you know, whatever. And so we sometimes tend to look so far outside for the solution. I'm suggesting, my little life tells me that the problem is where the solution has to be, and it's in the family. And a lot more time must be given to supporting family, to re-engaging mother, father, auntie, uncle, nenen, kume, whatever, engaging that extended family with each other again. And what that will do, it will create a safe haven for some who need it. It will create a support system for those who need it because they are more ambitious and they're going out, but they need a support system. And it will create a peaceful atmosphere, an oasis. When things don't quite go as you expected, you know you can go back. You can go by auntie, you can go by your nenen, go by your kume, and get encouragement and support in your moment of grief. And so those are things I have learned. And those are things I have tried to extend, to use and apply in the work that I have done throughout my life. Because if I go in any community I go into, whether it was Castle Bruce in 1972 or wherever, anywhere else, I go to people's homes. I meet them.
Yes.
I spend time there. I get to know the elders because they are the keepers of knowledge. They're the keepers of wisdom, the elders. We don't recognize that, it seems, because I don't think we treat our elderly people well. Not because I am now classified as an elder, I'm saying that, but I always enjoyed time with persons who were here longer than I and still had a perspective that I wouldn't even know about. And then that is where you begin to understand, oh, so that is why this village is so productive. Years ago, people were always talking about how Calabishi used to be so beautiful, so clean, so well landscaped. You would go to Calabishi at a time when I was a teenager, and you would meet people sweeping this, not just the yard, they were sweeping the street, that main street in Calabishi, trimming flowers, picking up the trimmings, putting away. So whenever you got, you could swear there was some event about to occur, but no, it was just how they naturally were. Girardel, another place that used to be very much that way. I remember there was a time, Mount Prospect was even that way, where people took care of the beautification of their yards and their frontage and so on, as little as they had. So, what does that say? If somebody invests some of their time in keeping their place clean, in keeping their place beautiful, it says something about pride. It says something about hygiene, that they do understand that they must not leave spots where rats and roaches and other vermin can procreate and spread around. They must, take care of that as well. They gather the leaves, they put it in a little biomass pile, and it goes into the garden. It says a lot about the industriousness of those people. So we often think, especially nowadays, and that we need a development strategy. We need a resilient development strategy, and we bring in consultants, and we have consultations, and we spend lots of time, but precious little time is spent interrogating, well, who is this supposed to benefit, and where are they in this picture? Why don't we have a few just elders come and chat with us? Or why don't we have a few young people come in and say, you people doing this thing, but you know what I really want? And you know, so, but because if your family experience is limited, your work experience is not going to see that as a strength, and so you will not call upon it. And so,
yes, Athie, let's go back to the family, and I normally like getting to know a little bit more.
yes, sure.
And two things I want to do now. The first thing I want to do. So in the back of your mind, get ready to share with us some of the experiences with that and some of the things that taught you and your siblings. So think about that. We're coming to that in a while. But before that, Athie, let's talk about your siblings. We didn't get to mention. One just came with you this evening. You know,
that was Julie.
To drop you off to the studios, and we'll speak in a while as to why he actually had to come drop you and to help you. For those who may not know that particular situation, but we'll come to that. But I want to talk about your siblings, and we know in particular there was one who lost his life in 1963. I know it may not be a time you want to revisit very often, but share with us, Athie, about your siblings, and let's talk a bit about this particular sibling and what happened.
But before we talk about Eddie, I'd like to talk about my eldest brother, Desmond.
Yes. Desmond.
Because Desmond is the eldest son of my father.
Okay.
He was not the son of my mother.
Okay.
But Desmond was always known to us as our brother, not half brother or quarter brother or whatnot. And he always treated us as full brothers and siblings. Desmond is not well today, but he was a very, very prominent person in our life. Kind of looked up to him. He was the big brother. Then I had another sister called Ivinia.
Ivinia.
My father's daughter, but not my mother's daughter. A little younger than Desmond. She had a rough life. She lived with her mom, and things didn't always work out very well for her. However, she was a determined girl, and she struggled, she worked, she saved money, and she migrated to England. She lived and worked in England. They eventually got married to a Barbadian gentleman. They built a house in Barbados. So they have a house in Barbados and a house in England.
Okay.
And so, you know, I start there because, again, we have this funny thing in our little crispy society of, oh, Mrs. a half-brother. What does a half-brother mean?
Actually, as you say that, somebody just posted something similar on Facebook. I think I may have read it about this. This half-brother and half-sister. Oh, there's nothing like half-brother and half-sister.
Absolutely.
And I'm inclined to agree with that person, and I'm agreeing with you tonight as well.
Absolutely.
I don't have no half-brother and no half-sister.
You have a brother and a sister.
Yes.
They were not.
And even the step ones, quote unquote.
Absolutely.
I do not refer to my, and I hope that Gail is listening tonight, and Curry. That's not my step-sisters. They're my sisters.
Absolutely. And that's the value of family. Because family doesn't make those artificial, superficial distinctions. You know, you are a friend, you're a brother, you're a sister, you're part of our family. End of story.
End of story.
So we start there. And in our maternal paternal household in Jewel Street, which is still where it is, which is where my brother Julie now lives. Interestingly, Julie and I were talking because I was at the house tonight. I had no intention of going to the house because it's been a long time I haven't been there at night. So there we were, he and I, and we were chatting and said, I said, Julie, how big is this house? He said, oh, I have about 30 by 40. That's the size of the family house.
Wow.
30 feet by 40 feet. A single floor. A single story building. 30 feet by 40 feet. 8 of us grew up in that house. 6 children and a mother and a father grew up in that house in Roseau. 4 boys and 2 girls. There was a room for boys. We had 2 bunk beds for the 4 boys, and the girls had a bigger bed, 3/4 bed. And my mom and dad were in their room. There was a little dining area. There was a little drawing room area.
Mm-hmm.
There was a kitchen area. The biggest room in the house was the kitchen. I never understood why until later on. But it was. Our toilet was on the inside. Our shower was in the yard. And so that's how the Martins grew up. In a house, 30 feet by 40 feet. One of the smallest homes on the street called Jewel Street.
Jewel Street.
Still there today.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we all had chores in that house. Clean the yard, polish the floor, and everybody had to do their chores. If you wanted to go to matinee on Saturday and you wanted your 25 cents or whatever it is, you had to do your chores.
Right.
So again, what the family teaches you about diligence and punctuality and productivity and output, money for work for money. So in the house was my father.
Yes.
Without a doubt, I mean, my mom was quiet. You really knew she was around at two moments. When she was working late at night, she had one of these machines where you had to pedal first, and then she got an electric sewing machine. And at around Christmas time, she worked throughout the night. So you heard the machine and whatnot. And the other time was when she was quarreling. Okay, so that's mommy. And mommy was like the Rock of Gibraltar. No matter what time of the day you got home, mommy was there. Another very important sense of safety feature for family. In some homes it was the granny. It was an aunt who made sure that somebody was home when any child came home. And people don't forget how important that is to a child to come to a house where there is somebody there, rather than an empty house. Okay, that's another important lesson. My dad, on the other hand, I could honestly say he's the most extraordinary man I have met in my life.
How so?
He was an inveterate reader. He came home from customs, put on his little short pant and his slippers and his shirt, and he was reading. Or if his friends came over, they played drafts and so on, but reading. So you grew up seeing this man always having something in his hand, reading. And then when his friends came, you could see them referring and talking about it and so forth and so on. That's one of my earliest recollections of my father. Reading. Then a second recollection of Daddy is sometimes when he put you in punishment, you know how he did that? He put you on the inside of the bench so you couldn't pass it to go out, and he gave you a book to read. That was your punishment. Read.
Educate yourself.
I read a 500-page book when I was about 12 years old.
That was your punishment?
Every afternoon, I couldn't go to play football. I had to come and read. And then he would quiz me to find out if I had really read it. The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. Huge book. Story of Germany.
At 12 years old?
Yeah. I was reading when I was 7. And reading books, reading the Bible, etc., etc. And so, but it was punishment. He did it for a good reason. He made you love to read. He helped you discover that no matter what the book was about, you could read it. You should read it because you might discover something fresh. He subscribed to Reader's Digest and National Geographic. And these two publications were always available in the house. National Geographic introduced me to the world in pictures, as you know. I mean, from the polar ice caps to the Amazon forests. You had those pictures and then you were reading about it. So, and you could see the most wondrous places. So, you know, he was allowing us to develop imprints in our minds that he knew would be really important to us and might even shape us. I'll never forget, whenever there were thunderstorms and lightning and so forth, hurricane season and so on, all of us would just kind of run inside and so on, until one day he came home and, "Where the children in it? Where the children?" He said, "Well, they're inside under the bed." So he pulled a few of those, I forget who, but I know it was 2 or 3 of the boys. And he brought us, come. He went, put us on the veranda. Now, rain is pelting down, thunder rolling, lightning flashing. And he said, "I'm going to explain what's happening there to you all." No, we didn't. It's cold, we want to go inside. He said, "I'm going to explain to you all what's going on. There's nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to be afraid of." And he explained thunder. He explained lightning. He explained storms. And do you know, following that lesson, from then on, the Martin's veranda was the only veranda that had children on it during a storm. Every other veranda, all the children were inside. Because we now understood there's nothing to fear. You just need to understand it so you can be careful about it, but no reason to be fearful. That was a mind that I only understood when I became an adult. How could some person imagine that by explaining a natural phenomenon like that to his children, he would shape their lives? And he did. He shaped our lives, literally, in many ways. Here we were born and being raised in Roseau, but 4 of the boys ended up going into agriculture.
4 into agriculture.
In that 4, I'm including Desmond as a 4th.
Yes.
Right?
And how did that happen? How did that come about?
Because in addition to this astronomical lessons that he gave us, he grew plants on his veranda. He had potted plants, flowering plants, every now and again a little pepper tree. He loved hot pepper, and he ate hot pepper with his meals, and so on and so on. And so you would be there, in the mornings and so on. Don't mess with his plants. Cultivating, seeding, germinating, he's grafting and budding. And it's you want to learn how to do this? Come. So he would, give us the little knife, and you would mess up his plants with it. All right, look, that's how you do it as well. And he had a neighbor on the back wall, he shared a back wall with us, Mr. Donald Shillingford, and he too grew plants. And to listen to those 2 gentlemen talk about their plantations, which is how they refer to their estate, their little potted plants on their respective verandas, they're talking about. They say, well, the crop this year, it looks like it's going to be very, very good. We have a few pests, but I think we can take care of that because the market for the crop is very good. And you say, what's wrong with this guy? A few little potted plants, but you see, they made what they did so interesting, and such an accurate reflection of the real world, that if you happen to be fortunate enough, like we were, to be in their company and listen to them, you will learn about economics. You will learn about trading, about marketing, about international business. You will learn about agriculture, crop production, pest problems, and so, without them telling you that is what they're teaching you, And so
they made it fun.
They made it fun. They made it fun. And then, very early in my life, it became clear to my parents that I was a troublesome child.
Oh boy.
It became clear to my sister Maureen as well, because every time when she made up the bed in her bedroom, I would just pass and unmake the bed. And I was troublesome, and she would cry and this and that.
And you wouldn't feel sorry, Athie.
I mean, of course, I love my sister, but I was bored, maybe. I wanted things to do, and I was always that way. And so, very early in my life, from the time I was in like third form, every holiday, whether it was a week's holiday, they sent me to the country.
By whom?
With friends. I went to Boudica, I went to Marigot, I went to La Plaine, and you know, spend time with people from school.
Did they want to get rid of you?
Yes, yes. You could literally hear my mother breathing a sigh of relief. Look, I was troublesome. In fact, some people tell me today, I think you're still troublesome. Behave yourself, you're still troublesome. And so, but that was eye-opener for me. You know, railway. Because I lived in villages at that time, they had no electricity, they had no indoor plumbing, and so forth and so on. So, I mean, I was engaged in sharing a life that my other brothers and sisters, by and large, didn't have.
So wait, Athie, you were the only one being posted to...
I was, yes.
About your bit.
That's what I'm telling you. But you have no idea, you have no idea. I mean... Even some of the things I feel a little way of telling you, but I'm not going to reveal everything. You know, but yeah, I was really...
We'll take what we can get.
I was really troublesome. And I was very active. I was in football, basketball, in track, and I was in steel band from 13 years old. I started playing pan at 13. And then I played the xylophone, and then that takes me to the 60s. Because I was playing pan in 1963 for Carnival. And we gave a very good account of ourselves in the panorama. We came second after, I think it was the SO band or Lima called Eddie Andre's group. That was the leading steel band at the time.
And what was the name of the group you opened up?
Our band was the Vauxhall Harmonicats.
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 Okay.
K-A-T-S.
All right.
Vauxhall, because our sponsor was Vauxhall Motors,
okay,
at the time owned by Eric Shillingford. And it's all connected. And George James, who also was a victim in that trial, was a musician. He was the leader of a band called GG. And George, with his clarinet, is the one who painstakingly taught us a classical tune that we played in the competition and nearly won with that tune. A tune called Voices of Spring. And he would come to the Panyard, which at that time was, you know where Cornel Phillip has his studio there?
Yes,
so
yes.
Underneath of that house was an open basement, and that is where our Panyard for that year was. And George would come every day and teach us with his clarinet, And we went to the competition and didn't quite win.
Didn't quite win.
Well, we came second. We didn't expect to actually place, so we came second. In those years, they had a few more steel bands than one or two. So we were very pleased with ourselves. And 1963, that was the year.
That was the year.
And so we were playing steel band on the road. Our band was hired. The band was down on the border, Mexican band. I think the guys from Neutron. And so we were playing, you know, we had a steel band accompanying a kind of a group, and you know, we were there. And we came around the corner from Queen Mary Street and turned down King George Street at the bottom of Constitution Hill. Came coming down, very nice. And then life changed when we got opposite to where Sims is. And the three 3 costumed people were behind us. We didn't know who they were. They were most amazing rope costumes. Remember I mentioned Eric Schillingfeld and Vauxhall Motors?
Yes, you did.
He was one of those who got burned in the fire.
Okay.
Remember I mentioned George James teaching us a song to compete with?
Yes.
He was the other one in the fire. And the third one was my brother Eddie. So
what happened, Athie?
Well, I can only tell you what I remember. I mean, we were playing, and then we heard there was a loud vroom, whoosh sound, and a lot of screaming and shouting and running. And I remember looking back, and I could see one of the 3 figures was on the ground. And people were rolling in to try to get the fire out. And the other one had rolled, I think, into the gutter, and so they were doing the same thing. And then
And that's what you saw by the time you got there.
I was there. I was playing steel band in the band.
But how was it a parade?
Yeah, it was.
And how far away were you from?
Oh, I couldn't have been more than 15 feet.
15 feet. Okay.
They were behind the band.
Okay.
And the steel band was behind the costume revelers, so that was the order.
Okay.
So the steel band was at the back of the reveling people down on the border, Mexican band, and these guys just joined. They all like steel band, and so they just were following the band.
Okay.
And some people behind the steel band, and so. But
at what point, Athie, did you first of all know? Did you knew that your brother was in a costume? One.
No.
You didn't know he was in one of those.
No, I didn't know who was
in those 3 costumes at the time.
At the time.
Okay.
But after I looked back, which was kind of looking up the street, looking east, and I saw the rolling going on. When I looked under the veranda of the ABC store, across from Sims's, there was a 3rd figure there, burning alive. And then I recognized it. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry, I have to take you back to that, Athie, and I appreciate you.
I recognize my brother. He was holding on to one of the supports for the veranda. But by then the flames had burnt off most of his costume. And then I saw who it was. And I started running towards him.
You were stopped?
Excuse me?
You were stopped?
Yeah, a lot of people just held me back.
Yes.
Because I would have died in the same fire. Really. I didn't know that. I just saw my brother, Eddie. And he just looked straight at me. He looked through me. And
you couldn't do anything to help him.
And I just stood there watching my brother burn. He just burned. And he was screaming in the most terrified voice. I'll never forget that. For years after I had that nightmare, for years. Until maybe 12 or more years, 15 years after. He came to me in a dream dressed in white and smiling. And then I knew it was all right.
You knew it was all right.
I knew it was all right. But in 1963, I was 18 years old.
18?
and I'm now 76. And there's a part of me that cannot handle this.
You still see it like it was yesterday?
I see it. I see it.
So as you think about it now, you're visualizing it.
I know, I see it in the greatest detail. And I've tried to turn it into a strength, and in many ways it has helped me. Because later on in my life, I ended up in situations where I was in war situations, military war situations that most people don't know about. I was in a military war situation in Ethiopia, Eritrea.
In Ethiopia.
And in El Salvador. Not as a combatant,
right,
as a peacekeeper. But we had to go in while the conflict was still going on. And I saw the horrors of war. You see what you're seeing in Ukraine? I've seen that live.
You've seen that in person.
I've seen that live. And when I see it, I see my brother. And I know that the only way to prevent those things from happening is to be brave, to be courageous, to be unafraid. That's when I tell people I am unafraid. I am unafraid. I am not afraid of death, of dying, of anything. Because I'm armed with a kind of inner fortitude and strength that started its development under the tutelage of my dad, who himself was an officer in the war, stationed in St. Lucia. So, people need to be really very careful. Don't judge. Don't rush to judgment about other people. Because you really don't know what is in that person's soul, that person's heart. You cannot imagine. And a lot of those folks carrying guns in our countries these days, they've never watched their brother burn alive.
Yes.
I have.
I can't imagine that experience, Athie. I can't imagine.
That's why I'm not afraid of guns. I've never owned a gun, and I don't need to. And those soldiers and others who think that coming at people like me with guns will make us be quiet, that's being stupid. I've been there. I've done that. And I know if you had to go and do that yourself, you would run in the opposite direction.
And you're talking about the experience in Ethiopia, and El Salvador.
That's right. I can't go into details because I was on mission for foreign governments.
Understood.
But people,
was it scary? Was it bad, Athie? Was what you saw?
Absolutely. You see all the war is an ugly thing. You cannot believe that it's human beings that are doing what you're seeing in front of you. You cannot believe it. When you get to a point where you actually see what used to be a human body partially just blown apart, partially burned or whatever it is.
This is an indication of bravery on your part.
Well, I'm not so sure because I've tried to understand what makes me able to do those things. And I understand, and I was reminded of it a few months ago.
Yes.
I was studying to be a priest when I was in St. Mary's Academy.
No way.
Absolutely. I was studying to be a priest. I did 2 years of theology, logic,
learning things,
and
Atherton Martin.
Yeah, I was studying to be a priest under the tutelage of Father Huysmans. And I was to go to seminary in Trinidad when I graduated from high school. And then something happened.
Do you think you would have made it if that something didn't happen?
I would have been a wonderful priest. My mother's dream was that I would become a bishop.
Oh my God, I'm trying to imagine you in your frock.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was quite comfortable with the idea of being a priest. But by that time, I understood I could speak clearly and help people understand what I was trying to say, etc. And I love reading. I've read the entire Bible many times. Most people don't know that. Most people have never read the Bible once. Okay? And I've studied the Bible. For years, I studied the Bible while I was at school in the St. Mary's Academy, preparing to be a priest. So, but that closeness to the Creator was somewhat artificial. It was kind of driven by a vocation, a choice of, and it wasn't really driven by a decision to be saved or to seek salvation or to find comfort with with the Lord. I've recently had that experience, so I'm back where I was when I was in like 4th and 5th form and 6th form.
Are you saying that you're having some type of spiritual awakening?
I have had.
Explain that to us, Athie.
I have had. And it's somewhat connected to my physical condition.
Yes.
And
So while we get ready to talk about the spiritual awakening, let's talk about the physical condition. So I recently learned, Athie, and I was not aware of that until recently, and we'll come back to the spiritual awakening because we have to talk about that. As you're saying, what leads to it or could have had some effects on that spiritual awakening is that you are now legally blind. First of all, explain to us what that means.
Well, it means that your vision is sufficiently impaired or disabled that you will not be allowed to drive a vehicle, that you need help in walking and going where you are, because your vision is glaucoma and it's actually shutting down the scope and range of vision. So now, for instance, I only see through a narrow box of vision.
I know about that because I have glaucoma in my left eye.
There you go.
Yes.
So it's in both eyes.
Both.
For me.
Yes.
It's in both for me. And
so may I ask, Athie, as we're sitting here in the studios, how much can you see?
Okay, with the light shining straight on you, I can see your features now.
You can see my features.
Yes.
But is it
not sharp?
It's not sharp. It's not sharp.
Not sharp.
Yes.
You know the detail that I would love to see. I mean, whenever
can you tell what color dress I'm wearing?
It's a light color dress.
It's a light color.
Yeah,
That's all you can see,
yeah,
but you don't know the exact color.
Yeah, I can't tell exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And you can see the mic. You
I can see
the mic.
the extension of the thing. Yes.
Can you see the computer over there? There's a computer right there, computer screen.
There's a screen.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see there's a square object.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can't tell what's on there.
No, I can't read it.
Okay.
I can't read it.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to give the audience, the viewing public, listening public, a sense of where you are now in terms of your vision.
Yeah. And so it's getting worse.
It's getting worse.
Deteriorating.
That's the thing about glaucoma. It gets worse.
It's deteriorating. So I'm fully prepared for the eventuality of total blindness. I'm practicing, and I'm making adjustments in where I go, how I go, what I do, what I cannot do. It's annoying to Faye because she still accuses me of trying to do so much, and you know you cannot see what you can do. So poor girl, she must go to heaven. If I go to heaven and ask her and she's not there, I'm leaving.
You go in.
I'm leaving.
You go in wherever she is.
Because that is not heaven.
That's not heaven.
She has to go there. Definitely.
But when you first, when did you first realize that was happening? Or how long ago?
A few years ago, maybe 3 years, 4 years ago. I really and my praises and kudos to Dr. Ricketts. Because she actually alerted me. She said, Athie, here's what's going to begin to happen to you. And she gave me a whole list of things. that eventually started happening to me. And she said, when that started happening to you, you're getting to the point where really there's nothing we can do except try to manage it, try to reduce the pressure. The pressure in my eye was not really very, very high, but she was able to still bring it down even further.
Mine got to 68.
Oh no, mine, I've never been that high.
It was very high.
You really did have an issue. I think the highest reading I got was 40.
Okay.
And but she was able to get it down to 12. Yeah.
Good.
So there's no discomfort in the sockets in the eye.
Right.
But and that's not the main issue. The main issue, as you would know, because you're a victim of the disease, is getting used to.
Yes.
And making the adjustments as a result of the vision loss.
But did you accept what was happening?
Oh yeah. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with that.
Yes.
And that is why am I cool with that? It's because of my spiritual reawakening.
So let's talk about that.
Because one day up on the property at Exotica.
Beautiful property, by the way.
Well, come and spend some time.
I shall. You can just go and sit with Athie and Faye.
And
drink some wine. Do we still do wine?
No, we do everything else with wines. But you'll enjoy it. I was walking on the property, it's a 4-acre property, and I got to a certain point, and then my world went black. I couldn't see anything. It was the morning. I didn't panic or anything. I said, but what is this? And I said, maybe the sun hasn't come up. So I decided I'll just wait. So I stood, which was the grass road. So I stood there and nothing was improving. It was still black. When I say black, I mean I wasn't seeing anything. And then I heard a sound behind me. Like something was walking through the grass coming towards me. I didn't know what it was, but I wasn't nervous. I think I know every creature that lives on that farm. And then all of a sudden I felt something rest on my leg, on my right calf, and just stay there. So, but what is this now? So I reached down and I touched, and it was a dog.
A dog. Oh my goodness! I was gonna say I hope it wasn't a snake.
No, it was a dog, and it was a neighbor's dog. Generally very sprightly and active and so forth, but he just stood there for that, rested on my leg, and didn't say a word and didn't move. His name is Fletcher. I said, Fletch, what's up? He didn't react, he just stayed there touching me. So I said, okay.
Fletcher said something.
Fletcher stayed there, and then, so I realized this, I was still in blackness, so I called out the name of one of the gardeners who was there that day. His name was Linford. I said, Linford! He didn't hear me, but Faye did. And Faye told me, she asked him to go there and check on me. So he came. So he's walking. I'm not seeing it, but he obviously saw me when he called out to me. He said, Mr. Martin, what are you doing here? The minute he called my name, the dog walked away and left me. Linford came. I told him, Linford, you have to help me get back to the car. So he turned, I took his shoulder and he walked me back. And I really felt strange. I felt that this was, what just happened? And as I was walking back to the cottages, my vision started coming back to where it was, which is meaning that I could see a bit. So I told Faye about it, and then I started meditating and praying for guidance to help me understand what just happened there, Lord. What just happened? And then the first thing that came to me was this. You called me. I said, I called you. What do you mean? And then I realized Linford, Linford. that embedded in the guy's name is the word Lord.
Yes.
Lord. So my meditation led me to believe, to see that I had actually said, Lord, Lord, not Linford, Linford. And from that moment on, and even as I'm telling you, I'm feeling the same feeling.
Mm-hmm.
From that moment on, I think the Father spoke to me. I said, Master, you have some work to do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You have some stuff to do. So I prayed. I called. I tell you who I called because they're a very important part of my spiritual resurgence.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I called Randy Rodney, who was just here.
Yes.
I called Monsignor John Lewis. And I called Nigel, Father Karan.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of them in turn came to see me and spent time with me, listened to the story, and helped me understand
what was happening.
And then I went for a follow-up visit with Father Karan, Nigel, a wise young man. And it was he who really clearly helped me understand. He said, Athie, the Lord has work for you to do. But this time, you must do it in His name. I said, what do you mean? He said, you see the work you've been doing all your life? Environmental conservation and preservation and protection. The Lord wants you to continue that work. But you must do it in His name. Not in the name of any organization or any government or anybody else but the Lord, God Almighty. And he said the Lord is going to ask you to do a few things. Because He needs to know that you're ready to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, you and Faye are going to have to get up every morning and pray together. Number two, you have to go back to church because I stopped going to church. You have to start going to service. Mm-hmm. And number three, you have to take the Holy Sacrament. So if you're ready, I'll hear your confession. Did that, and Faye and I started going to church, praying.
Yes, because I wanted to come see you on Sunday, and she said, well, we go to church at 9, so after that.
Right. And then it became clearer to me that whatever I do, I must openly and fully declare it to be in God's name. And the Lord's Prayer has always been my favorite prayer from confirmation days, from when I was 11 years old. And that is a complete prayer. Father in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That line, every time I got to that line, I would stop involuntarily. Thy will be done on earth. That's what the Lord asked me to do His will on earth, by caring for His earth, and do it in His name. Don't tell me there's no conservation association or no United Nations.
None of that.
Do it in His name, because that's what's missing, and that's why the earth and the natural systems are collapsing, because it's not being done in the name of the person who created the earth. It's being done in the name of some climate change group or some other group or some bank or something. That's not going to work. And I said, but that makes sense, because I believe that. I believe God created the earth. I believe the earth does not belong to any man, and any man who attempts to claim it for himself is in violation of God's intent and has to be rebuked. And so, and at the same time, 7 weeks ago, what happened? I called the radio station in response to a comment made by my dear friend Suki, who was upset as I was that people were just willing to go on the radio and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and vent and vent and vent and do nothing. And Suki had asked him, are you prepared to die for Dominica that you say you love so much? So I called him and said, brother, let's go a little easy on those people. I'm going to ask them. So I called Matt and said, I want to know if those people who are calling and talking are prepared to walk.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 weeks ago, that call seemed to have resonated. It's not my call. I'm just the tool, the voice. And the Lord did the rest. He's doing the rest. He's alerting people that you have to get up and do more. Talking is fine, but you have to walk. And then Easter time, this last Easter time, it hit me so hard, the walk to Calvary. I've never in my life had such a complete experience of that walk. Christ walked. So we have to walk. And we must not stop walking at all. And we must do it in Christ's name. In the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, and in the name of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. And I'm telling you, for Dinah, that gives me such a feeling of peace. And such a feeling of doing the right thing. Because I'm not doing it for no man-made institution. Because man-made institutions cannot fix the
And you've
earth.
been there, done that.
I've been there. On more than one occasion. And what is unfolding globally is evidence that that's not working. And so what's left of my life, that's what I'm doing it for. So I'll still focus on stopping the damage and destruction that is going on even as we speak. In the Roseau Valley, in Pocasset, in La Youde, Belfast, Indian River, all over the island, people are destroying the island. And I'm going to help stop it. Not in my name. In the name of the Savior. And He is going to stop it. And you know what? The last revelation I got was today.
Today.
Today. He said to me, tell the people, if they do not stop destroying Dominica by May 29th, they will be destroyed. You know the significance of May 29th
Yes.
in Dominica's history.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no evangelist and pastor or preacher,
Prophet.
nothing. I'm just an ordinary person. My grandfather was a barber, my father was a civil servant. End of story. My mother was a seamstress, etc., etc. But if you ask Jesus, who was his father? Who was your mother? In their earthly form, they were simple people. And I'm saying to all who care to listen, you may feel that your level of material comfort that you have negotiated today is good for you, and you're satisfied and you've made it. But let me tell you, what you've made is a sepulchre. You know what a sepulchre is? It's a coffin. Ill-gotten gains that have caused pain for God's people are going to be punished in the most painful way. And so, because He is what He is, a good God, He's saying, I'm giving you time to fix it. Now, May 29th may come and go, and these people may still be out there doing their damage, but that doesn't take away from the fact that somewhere in God's universe, there's an ultimatum. And if we believe we are acting in God's name, we better get up and stop the destruction of our island. We are his tools. In biblical days, he caused the Red Sea to part for his people to go across. He may not do that anymore. Been there, done that. Because he supposedly has soldiers. And I believe, frankly, that was the purpose of my life.
That was the purpose of it.
The purpose of my life was to bring me to this point where my life experience globally can be brought to bear on this little spot of earth to help make one point, that in the final analysis, it's not man that fixes anything. It's the Creator that does it. Because it's not man that created anything, it's the Creator that did it. And then when we disrespect the creation of the Creator, we disrespect the Creator. It's as simple as that. And all those folks with their big equipment, and all those folks with their big offices, and all those folks with their big checkbooks, who are financing the destruction of the earth, your end is here. You have only one choice. You can stop it yourself, stop doing it, or just prepare yourself for some very painful experiences, because it will be stopped.
Right. We're coming right back. This is the In the Spotlight radio show with Athie. Still quite a bit to talk about. Keep it locked. We're coming right back. Let's get a sip of our Topito water. Wherever you are tuned in to the program tonight, it is indeed a pleasure to have you. I told you that there's not going to be a dull moment on this program tonight, and here it is, 9:41. We're coming back.
In the Spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight, featuring people from all walks of Dominican life, spotlighting the triumphs and tragedies, dreams, hopes, aspirations, untold stories, touching the human and personal side of people in politics, religion, sports, business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, our public servants, youth, and the ordinary Dominican. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the Spotlight will also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight.
Okay, so Athie has had his sip of water, so have I, and we're not wasting any time in continuing the conversation here tonight. Very powerful, very, very powerful and inspiring program there tonight with Athie. Athie, I know we didn't spend much time speaking about life before. We have to give the audience an opportunity. I know that most of us know you are an agronomist, you're a conservationist, you're an environmentalist. Explain to us what all of that means.
Well, if you really look at it carefully, you'll see that all of these mean the same thing. I've been trained, and I've been trained throughout my whole life to care for elements of the earth, to help people learn how to manage the earth in a way that leaves the earth better off than it was before you started using it, and that allows you to earn a decent living, a good living, and importantly to get good proper nutrition from the results of your agricultural venture. Going right back to my father, I think that's really what he was telling me I'm going to have to do. You know, he started on his little flower pots on the veranda, and I'm now here. I've been all over the world working with people in developing sustainable agricultural systems in South Africa, you know, in the East and West Africa, in parts of Central America, in Asia, and so on. So I've been blessed to have had the opportunity not only to share what I knew, but most important, to learn more, to learn from other cultures, other people, what they did, why they did it, and what were the results, and what part of what they did might be applicable to our situation here in the Caribbean and Dominica. And so, I really do believe that there's a certain coherence, there's a certain connectivity in all the skill sets that I've been allowed to develop over the years, including in planning, in administration, in public policy formulation, as well as in the harder skills of agronomy and soil science, crop production, marketing, etc. Because I have had opportunity to do some of these things and do them well. When the Casabas Farmers Cooperative, when it was operational, was a model. Unfortunately, people didn't like the idea of people working collectively. They wanted to go back to the individual peasant farm, when in fact, in order to achieve critical mass and economies of scale, we had to, consolidate the labor input of the people into a form that would allow us to generate more value from the farm than if we all tried to do our own little thing on our own. That's one of the reasons why the average yield for bananas in Dominican never moved beyond 4 tons per acre. Although in Martinique next door there were 20 tons. But there were farmers here getting 10 and 12 tons. Diles Warrington and Abraham and many other farmers got those yield outputs. But what they did was consolidated land and consolidated resources. But the smaller person doesn't have the land, doesn't have the resources. What they have is their labor. Their labor, if you can consolidate their labor into an organized enterprise, a venture that allows people to specialize in certain aspects of the farm operation, land preparation, propagation, planting, pest and disease control, harvesting, post-harvest management. What you do, you create, if you will, a model similar to what people have done with factories. In a factory like DCP, you had a lot of people working in one place, but people had their job to do. They have specific tasks, which were all part. So that same principle, I believe, if applied properly to agriculture, would have made a difference. But I think, there's some softer skills that I have been allowed to develop, that the Lord has blessed me to develop. And one is music. Again, back to my father.
Yes.
Daddy had a little box guitar, and he taught all of us everything he knew, which was for him a lot, but we later discovered really wasn't that much. We can say so publicly.
Yes.
But he taught all the boys. So Obi played guitar and swing stars. Eddie
I
played
haven't seen him in
guitar.
a while, Athie.
He's here. He's okay.
Okay.
He's enjoying his retirement.
Okay, I've not seen this gentleman in a very long time.
Eddie played guitar in Swinging Stars.
Okay.
So Obi, Eddie, Julie. I played guitar at one time in Swinging Stars. Then I played keyboards in Swinging Stars.
Ooh la la.
And then I played pan. So in fact, the Martin brothers, we were the only family at any time to have 3 brothers, living brothers, playing at the same time in Swinging Stars.
Nice.
At one time, Obi, Julie, and myself played together in Swinging Stars. 3 brothers. Eddie had died. Okay, if Eddie had been alive, maybe there would have been 4 brothers.
Yes.
Martin brothers.
Possibly, yes.
Could it be? So you don't know. But do not underestimate the healing and strengthening power of music. I've learned that. Music is a deep spiritual skill, a deep spiritual treasure, as well as a physical thing, because you need to engage the instrument and so forth. And I think Daddy taught us that as well, because he sang a lot at the house, and so the point again is there's a connectivity between the first point I made about the importance of family and the creating of a construct that allows you to develop your treasures, to develop your skills, your God-given skills, and what you end up doing with those skills in your life. you know, and I see that as really, you know, you go, when I think of all the places I've been where, you know, music has plays such an important part in conflict resolution, in deepening family and community ties, and I see how it's done, and I see that's how it used to be here. Jinping music was that, you know, Pan music was a community music format, and so music has become something else, maybe due to the technology and the digitizing of things where you don't need a lot of people anymore to create a big sound, and so on and so on. But in the process, we have lost that energy of bringing people together to do something. So I would add music to one of the areas of expertise, because people don't think of it and I think, oh, those guys just playing music, making noise in people's head and so on. You know, no, it's not that. You know, music is good for both the musician and for the people hearing the music, if well done. If you can establish a link with your audience, you're good to go. You know, so yeah,
what's some of the work you've done in Dominica? And I also am aware, Athie, that you won a Goldman Environmental Prize in 1998. Tell me about that, and how did that prize come about, and what did we do with the money that we got in terms of that prize?
Let me tell you, the Goldman Environmental Prize is the Nobel Prize equivalent for NGOs. Okay. And it's given by it was started as the Nobel Prize was started by a rich person. The Goldman Prize was started by a rich person in the US. And they target efforts at the community level, at the grassroots level, aimed at protecting natural resource systems and protecting people's livelihoods. And there are several levels of the prize, meaning several categories. There's an Islands Prize category, there's a Europe Prize, Europe category, Africa category, Latin America, and a North America and Europe, North America category. So in the year 1998, when I was awarded that prize, it was a prize for islands category, islands all over the world. And
islands specifically?
Yeah, islands.
Islands, okay.
Yeah. And for work in actually helping to stop this copper mining from starting in Dominica, because it would have destroyed the Central Forest Reserve and the Northern Forest Reserve and several rivers as a result. And so there was a campaign that I started and then was joined in by the late Mona George Dale and several other persons, you know, who were part of that exercise to sort of convince people that this would be a very bad thing for Dominica. The United Workers' Party was the government at the time, and they had gotten this Australian company, the Broken Hill Proprietary Company, to come here to do that. And when we researched that company, we found that company had caused a massive disaster in parts of Asia in copper mining.
So they were bad news.
So they would have been absolutely bad news for Dominica. And we succeeded in stopping them from coming in, and which was better than letting them come in and establish. It's always more difficult to get somebody to uproot and leave than to prevent them from starting. So that's what we did. And the prize was $100,000
US or
no, well, 100,000 EC dollars.
Okay.
In that year, it has since increased significantly. And in that year, it was 50,000 US.
Okay.
And then it's right now it's 250,000 US.
Oh.
So that led to about 100 and something thousand
EC
dollars, and 40,000 of that went straight to the Dominican Conservation Society.
Nice.
The Conservation association.
Very good.
We had.
Did you have to make that decision, or it was part of the award?
No. They leave it entirely up to the awardee to decide what they want to do.
Okay.
They suggest that some of it should go towards sustaining any organization with which the person is associated.
Okay.
So that's where $40,000 was just given off the top.
Awesome, Athie.
And the balance of that was used to help defray the expenses, not just of myself and family, but of others who had been associated and involved in the campaign. You know, like Mona had been involved, and in those days, we never looked back to see whose car was being used and what price of gas was on telephone. So, the balance of the money was distributed that way to help defray people's personal investments in the campaign, and we as a family, decided what we wanted to do with our share of that. I think I can say publicly, we had a couple of credit cards that frankly were haunting. So we just paid them off.
Okay.
End of story. I
like your openness and your frankness, Athie. I have to tell you that.
No, absolutely. I have nothing to hide. I don't have anything in my life that I think I need to worry about telling anybody. And so that was that, and so it. Other things that have happened. People will remember. I came back from university in 1972. I went to work for CDC, the Commonwealth Development Corporation, who actually had contributed some portion of the cost of my education, my university education.
Just turn the mic a little. Just turn the mic a little more. Right, perfect.
And so when I came back, I was offered the job as manager of the Casabruce estate, which was an estate of about 1,846 acres in the Casabruce Valley, which had been part of the two estates. Melville Hall was the other estate. Melville Hall was run by the general manager for CDC, which was Alan Pugh. He was in charge, and I was the Casabruce estate manager, which was his second in command.
Okay.
When I came back, I got a huge salary.
You got a huge salary.
$800 a month. Plus a house. That's 1972. Don't laugh at it. That was a lot of money.
That was a lot of money then.
$800.
So wait. So was it like $8,000?
I don't know. But somebody listening might know what would be the pro rata value of a $1972 against a $2022, for example. But that was that, and they gave you an estate house and a car, and you had, people to take care of the house and to cook and to clean and so you were living on the estate as an estate owner,
right?
But you were the manager, and I was really excited about it because actually one of my research theses that I did while at university was a plan for because I knew I was coming back to work for CDC.
Right. You knew that?
I knew that, yeah.
Yes.
Because
they had supported your education.
They had made a donation, and part of the condition of their donation was that I would come back and work for them for a couple of years. And I studied the two estates in detail and developed a land use plan for each of these estates. So whichever one I was posted to, I had a plan.
Right. You were prepared.
I was prepared. And so I started work. It was a January thing. And then a few weeks later, I got a communication from the general manager, Mr. Alan Pugh, who told me they're having some problems with Casabruce Estate, it's not working well, and we need to lay off 55 people. The labor force at the time was about 155. So they wanted me to lay off.
You?
Me.
Yes.
Me, a black Dominican manager, just come back for the first time. And within weeks of my return, you're giving me an order. You, a white man, sitting down in Melville Hall, telling me to fire 55 people. I told him, Alan, I'm not doing that.
You told him no?
Yes, I told him no. I told him I'm not doing that. I tell him, listen, you hired me as a manager because you feel there's something I can contribute. I can turn this estate around. I know this estate like the back of my hand.
Oh my God, I'm shivering.
And so, if you give me some time, I can turn this estate around.
So you decided you're not firing these 55 people.
I refuse to fire
Give you a chance, let you
That's right.
turn this around.
That's right. And then He said, well, it's not his decision, it's Barbados. Barbados is the headquarters for CDC. So they sent down a lawyer, an accountant, and some agricultural person from Barbados. And they came to see me at Castlebrooks. This is a week later. They said, Mr. Madden, you're going to have to follow our orders. We've looked at the books and that's, we believe, the only solution. So I told them the same argument. I said, that's not a solution. You cannot ask me to come back to my home country after all these years of being away. And the first order you want me to implement is to fire 55 people. You crazy or what? So I
With families and children in school and all of that.
So I told them I'm not doing it. That's 1972, eh?
You put down your foot.
I put down my foot. And so they told me, okay, you'll hear from us. The next day after they went back to Barbados, they gave me an ultimatum. You either fire the people or we fire you. I said, well, go ahead, fire me. I called all the workers together, 155 plus, and all the people from the village heard about it and they came down to the estate yard and I told them the situation. I said, look, CDC asked me to fire y'all, I'm not firing y'all. They fire me, so I'm leaving. They said, par là. Nous-mêmes pas qu'à quitter ou pas qu'à quitter vous-même. Restez là. We took over the estate. We took over the estate.
What you mean you took over the estate?
Well, I'll tell you what I mean. I was...
Oh my God!
CDC decided they're going to try to get workers from the Carib territory to come and work the estate because the people went on strike. They said they're not working. Castlebrooks people spoke to the people from Kalinago. She's also non-vini. She's also non-vini. They went back. And we took over the estate. They sent police behind us. There's not no way facing guns, you know. They send SS fellas with their SLRs and their guns and their rifles and so on and so forth. We told them, you all have to go back to town. We don't have nowhere to go. We stayed there. And the government at that time, Mr. Leblanc was premier. Henkel Christian was in the government. What's his name? Thomas Etienne. And so on. A good group of men, a good group of labor government people. Say they understood, but they felt their hands were tied because CDC is with electricity, and if they don't do what CDC said, I tell them, well, but y'all are mad. So that's when I began having some head knocking with the Labour Party. Mr. Leblanc interested me, that's a whole other story, we don't have time for that tonight. While I was at university, I have a whole folder of correspondence between myself and Edward Oliver Leblanc.
About what?
Giving me advice as to what I should study so that when I come back to Dominica, I can be helpful to the Labour Party and to the government. Written on the stationery of Mon Cottage, where he used to live at the time. But that's another story. That's another story. The documents exist, and at the appropriate time, they'll be given to somebody who might want to publish them.
Alex Brenner, maybe?
But so eventually what happened, and for the next 18 months, we prevented anybody from coming on the estate.
18 months?
For 18 months, and almost every night during those 18 months, we met, and we discussed, and we took a decision at the parish hall in Castlebrooks that we were not going to give up the estate. We needed a portion of that estate for us to work for ourselves. And we will form a cooperative. So we went through the whole cooperative division thing, and we formed the cooperative. So the Castlebrooks Farmers Cooperative formed. And we made an application for a few hundred acres of land of the year. We didn't want the whole estate. We made an application for 300 and something acres of land from the estate. And eventually, after much pressure and so forth, police involved and so on, they agreed.
They gave in.
They gave in, and we made application for some resources to get the cooperative going, and we started the cooperative farming in 1974, and we farmed for a period of Eugenia Charles came into office in 1980. Yeah, when she came in, she said she's not tolerating the cooperative like that. That is communist business. Yeah, that's communist business. People working together as a collective farm. That's communist business. That's Castro business. And they broke up the estate into little bits and pieces of farms and so again dividing and conquering the people. So rather, but we did that. Today, the entire estate is in the ownership and land of Casablanca people. I know that there had been some large owners who wanted that estate. So one of our primary objectives was to make sure that Casablanca people did not lose the chance to own that estate. And that was successful. What has happened subsequently is a whole different ball game in terms of a failure for us to provide support to the farmers who ended up owning that estate. So that in fact an irrigation system that was put in that was needed never worked. And so on and so on. And another story. So that's one thing. Then something else that I did. You remember the Dominican Farmers Union?
I heard about the Dominican Farmers Union.
There was the first variant of the Farmers Union that was started and organized by people like Will Strathmore Stevens, Alvin Almond Trading, Clem Ferrara, That thing, it didn't survive because of politics. So in 1978, there was a leaf spot crisis in Dominica. Leaf spot almost destroyed the banana industry in 1978. And neither the Ministry of Agriculture nor the Banana Growers Association seemed able or ready to restore. So we reformed the Dominican Farmers Union. I was the General Secretary of the Dominican Farmers Union. We established, by 1979, we had 42 branches of the Dominican Farmers Union in 42 communities.
Across Dominica.
We had a membership of 2,500 farmers all around the island. And we had projects going in terms of marketing and trading and so forth. By 1983, we had actually purchased a vessel, a refrigerated vessel called the Oscar Flower. And let me mention Neville Wade. We have a lot of, that's a man you should talk to. That's a man you should talk to.
I have tried reaching him.
Neville Wade.
Got to his son. Hope I can get to him soon.
That is a giant of a man. That man started when he was 16 years old. He built his first boat and put 2 Land Rover's engines on it and started carrying produce to Guadeloupe. You understand what I'm talking about? And then he eventually bought boats. Neville, I called and asked for his help. Neville took me and guided me through to Europe to find a boat that would be suitable for the Farmers Union to carry the produce of the farmers. We found a boat in Norway, 150 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, in a little fishing village. Neville took that boat and captained that boat down the coast of Norway, into Denmark, across into Germany, and across the Atlantic Ocean to Dominica.
No way.
That is the 4th boat he has taken across the Atlantic Ocean, and Dominicans don't understand or know that. He brought that boat here, we crewed the boat, he crewed the boat, he trained the crew, and for 9 years, the Dominica Farmers Union bought produce from its members every week and took it to Tortola, to the US and British Virgin Islands, primarily. We did make some trips south to Trinidad with produce, but our primary markets were to the north. Did that for 9 years. Thousands of tons of produce. A farmers' organization. We did things like import tools for farmers so we could drop the cost of tools, the cost of seeds, etc., etc. We had to confront governments. We had got a grant for repairing feeder roads. And one of the first actions my dear friend Miss Eugenia Charles took when she first came into office as Prime Minister, she called the FAO in Rome and got them to cancel the grant. Yep. That. We brought a delegation of farmers down to meet her. We met them in what at that time was the Parliament.
It was useful. The organization was useful.
Absolutely.
It was beneficial to farmers.
In fact, if we had a farmers union today, Farmers would not have a problem for marketing their produce. Farmers would not have a problem waiting for people to come with equipment to clear the roads that were blocked by Hurricane Maria. We would have done that because we would have had a project that included equipment and training that would allow people to repair and build roads and to keep the roads in proper condition so the farmers could go in and out. So, when governments pretend that they have the capacity to do things, I have been part of initiatives here that have done those things, and run those things for years. The only thing that stopped the farm to market project was there was a freak storm at Monday which washed all those ships in Portsmouth Harbour onto the coast. You remember how long they stayed there, onto the beach. But my point is, we have talent and expertise in the country like Neville Wade, like the late Bernard Avril Faustin, like Cyril Hyacinth, like Neville's son Ned, who you probably know, Ned Wade. And those people are not even recognized. These people are not, supported in their ventures and adventures to help Dominica. And I thank the Lord for putting me in touch with those kinds of people, letting those people, giving them a chance to contribute to farming in Dominica. Many others. So, there's lots of other things that I have done. I prepared plans for the government of Dominica. I prepared the integrated development plan, which interestingly, the government which commissioned the study, which was paid for by the European Union, the government under the present Prime Minister took 2 years to approve the plan and pay us for the work. And guess what? I can take you to a province in South Africa where that plan is what they have used to reorganize that entire province. I presented it at a conference in South Africa once, and the governor of the state sent to call me and he said, what is this you just said? Where is that? Where can we get one of those? And he called all his officials and I made a presentation to them and I gave them a copy of it. I had an electronic copy. And that is the plan that they've used to develop the Natal province. So, I don't like to, I'm not a fella I like to talk about what I do. You understand? I just like to do.
Trumpet, but
I just like to do.
But we're here to talk about
what
that. So,
I can
yes.
do. And then in the area of arts and so forth, I with people like Eddie Andre and Miguel Dublin and others, and now there's a young group, Chad Zamo and Pius and what's her name, Andre, Jacqueline Andre, and we have tried for years to get PAN established in the schools. Freddie and I even did one summer a training program for the music teachers of the school system in Dominica. We did it at the Barracoon building, I'll never forget that. And we introduced them to PAN as an instrument and music theory, etc., etc. Because the hope was, what we were promised was that would lead to those music teachers going back to their respective schools. We would have a program to import and get PANs and instruments and bring it into the schools, and so every primary school could have a serious music program.
And you would still love to see that happen today.
I would. It's very vital. PAN and mathematics, music and mathematics go together. It is proven empirically that people who do well in music can do well in math, and vice versa, because they are both precise. The number 7 is only 7 in mathematics. The note of B is only B in music. So you cannot, so you can calculate and formulate, different arrangements of numbers to get different purpose, different conclusions. In the same way, you can put notes together in different ways to get different compositions. And so it's a tragedy that you have people going to 13, 14 years of school and getting no access to music. No access to so you're not identified. That is where you will find the new Michael Hendersons. That is where you will find the new Abias, the new Ophelias, the new Freddies, the new Julies. You know, that is where you will find them. But if you're not even cultivating or exposing them to music as an art form, which should be on the school curriculum. There used to be glee clubs in the St. Mary's Academy, for example. We had chorales. We did concerts and so forth. So, yes, I would love to see that happen. And it's not expensive to do. And you will find, I'm sure you can convince many musicians to contribute some of their time to getting a program like that going. Mm-hmm. So you see, Falana, there's much more to be done. Mm-hmm. But because we kind of are crabs in a barrel, we don't like to see any crab get to the top of the barrel. And so instead of finding a way up ourselves, we pull down. You know, that's got us nowhere. That got us to where we are now, which is not a good place. And the way out of that is to build back that sense of community, that sense of commune, that sense of family. Ask any musician about their really great experiences in the field and they'll tell you, boy, I remember those years when I played with so and so. Mm-hmm. It's always a relationship thing for music. The same for sports. Footballers will tell you that. My brother Desmond will tell you, Combomere boy, that was the greatest team under the captaincy of Thomas Baptiste and fellas like Rice and all these guys played. Fellas in Newtown will tell you the same thing. The great days of Harlem. It was family. That team was a family. And when you destroy those things, you destroy the prospects for the country to come together as family. So all these pleas for people to come together and what's wrong with us, why we cannot get together, but there's somebody actively destroying a direction of unity because you're not promoting sports. How can you have a school without a sports program? Athletics, netball, tennis, volleyball, actively, that's your young people. You know what those people are going to be when they get old? If you've never played sports and you get old, your bones are going to start cracking much earlier. You know, so come on, let's fix those things.
Athie, I want to ask you when we get ready to wrap things up. So keep that in mind. You just spoke about some of the things that you would like to see. One of them being music in schools. Yeah. So I want to know, when we're getting ready to wrap up in just a while, what are some of the other things that, as you sit here tonight, that you would like to see? But before that, Athie, I never knew that you served in government twice.
Yeah.
I am aware of 2000 when you served as Minister for Agriculture under Ruzi, but apparently you did so sometime before. So a little bit about your role in government.
In 1979, which was a major year in Dominican history, you know, the removal of one government, Patrick Holden John's administration, the establishment of the Committee for National Salvation, and the creation of the interim government, and so forth. Remember that year, in those years, I was head of the Farmers Union. So I was the person who was chosen to represent the farmers in the interim government.
I see. Did you belong to a political party at the time?
No. We got close with the Dominican Liberation Movement Alliance and so on, but it was a flash in the pan. But no, it was a major party that was still around, but they couldn't leave the farmers out. Because remember, when the civil servants were on strike, those farmers that were bringing food for the civil servants were the Farmers Union farmers. Every day they would bring food down to keep the people on, to help them stay on strike. Can you imagine that happening today? Can you imagine people going on a strike in one sector and being openly supported by farmers so that you don't have to worry about your loss of income because we're bringing you everything from coconuts to yam to tanya to dashing to sweet potatoes to vegetables and fruit and so on every day from all around the country? That was organized by the Farmers Union. So, you know, I served as agriculture minister, and also, because remember it was Hurricane David, I was appointed by the government to be the coordinator of the disaster relief effort. So I was the disaster relief coordinator in 1979. And I ran into some problems. The ambassador of the United States...
Why am I not surprised?
I tell you I'm a troublesome guy. Yeah, I told you from way back.
Yes.
The ambassador of the US, Sally Shelton, was upset that we had told the US government we did not need food, because they started sending in powdered eggs and corn and stuff. Because we had discovered, I was the Minister of Agriculture, I had set my team out under the leadership of Colin Bully. They had gone out and done a rapid survey, and they discovered that all our root crops were intact. So we didn't need food aid, but we needed these things, and we sent those lists out to the donors. And the only country that refused to respond to our needs was the United States. They sent in a shipping, I sent it back.
Are you kidding?
Yes, I sent it back. Because we didn't need it. And so Sally Shelton, the ambassador in Barbados, she flew a helicopter everywhere. She could land in the Windsor Park.
Happy, you always causing problems. You're causing people to make a whole accountant, and someone came down the first time around for Castle Bruce.
Let them come.
Now people coming in on helicopter.
Let them come. They should come to us. We shouldn't have to go to them. Why should we have to fly over there to see them about our problems? The problems are here. If you want to help us solve those problems, come here. So she came in her helicopter, she landed in Windsor Park, and my office at that time was actually where the commissioner sits in the police station today. That was my office. So, and every morning we had a session, so she came in for the session of all the donors and so on and so on. So we go through, I chair in the meeting. So she comes in late, and she comes in and she sits down.
Making a statement.
Yeah, she comes in late. So, we're taking reports from each donor and figuring out what still needs to be done and where we're having issues and so on. Then we get to the US. So the guy who normally reports for the US started standing up to report. She said, I'll report. I said, okay, go ahead, Ambassador. And she started saying, the United States government is very upset at the decision by the Dominican government to return valid and aid that is seriously needed in the country, and we would like to have an explanation. I let her talk, and I said, are you done? She said, yes, I'd like to have an explanation. I said, you're going to get one right now. And I told her what I just told you. We've done our homework. Yes. We do not need that food.
Yes. We told you what we needed.
We told you what we needed. Everybody else here in this room has agreed and are moving in that direction. What is your problem?
How dare you?
She turned red, white, pink, blue. And, so I said, no, we don't need this. Really, we don't need this. Some of my colleagues were nervous. The Prime Minister at the time, Oliver Serafin, was nervous. She left the meeting and went to see the Prime Minister. She left the meeting and went to see the Prime Minister. I was fired a few days later.
Of course.
And you know what's really interesting? Many years later, when I went to do a work assignment in Washington, D.C., I met Sally Shelton. She was at that time stationed in Washington, D.C. And at that time, she was married to the head of the CIA, William Colby. So she was Sally Shelton Colby.
So did she remember you?
Of course she did. Of course she did.
She cussed you.
She came to me and she started kind of laughing. She said, Dominican, Hurricane David, that guy is a hurricane. And, so we having a chat. I said, but Sally, why did you make such a fool of yourself in the meeting when you knew you didn't have a leg to stand on? She said, just doing my job. Just doing my job.
Athie, we have to start to wind things down. The question I posed to you prior to this previous one is, in addition to what you mentioned in terms of music in schools, what are some of the things that you would like to see, quote unquote?
Well, we are thinking a range of sectors, so I'll just go through a list of things that I think are really critical, really important to be done. Number one, we need to clear the roads, the feeder roads to the farms in Dominica. We have a lot of heavy-duty equipment in Dominica now, destroying roads, Atherton's equipment, MMC's equipment, other equipment, on contract to repair and improve roads, but destroying roads. We have other privately owned local equipment now engaged in the Rosa Valley, doing something that is not smart, that is quite destructive. It is time for us to put that equipment on the feeder roads and open up the roads to the farms of Dominica. That's a simple one to do. It's a straightforward one. What that will do, in 9 months' time, we will have production. So here's the second thing we have to do immediately as we start clearing the roads. We have to put marketing in place. The markets are there. All around us, the markets are there, and they're going to be growing. The transportation is available now. Call Ned Wade. Call Neville Wade. We have Dominican cargo ships that need to be brought into service to pick up the produce that is going to be available once you clear the roads to the farms. We have persons in other islands who are in charge of the importation of food now from the United States. Guess what? If you're following the news of what's going on in the north, you will realize that the United States is going to start experiencing food shortages, which means less food imports are going to be possible from the United States. So the supermarkets are not going to get the food from the United States that they're getting now. That's a harsh reality. If you read the new US news, you will see that they are now putting in place some emergency measures for food security in the United States. So they're going to look after themselves first. So you have to start looking after yourself. So all those countries around us that are highly dependent on food from the United States to feed themselves, they're going to want our food. So let's get busy and ready to do that. Let's start promoting and marketing our food. Let's produce so much that we can afford to sell at competitive prices, prices competitive with Costa Rica and the Dominican Republic, and we will be fine. That's 2. Number 3, when you ramp up production like that, I'm starting with agriculture because that's really the thing that can kickstart the economy. You're going to have surpluses, because once you grade for your primary fresh fruit market, you'll have food that's good for processing but not up to the standard for primary fresh export. You need to process that food. So we need a factory in the east, we need a factory on the west coast, and we need a factory in the south. We need 3 factories that would actually do multiple product processing, value adding, that would allow us to not only generate jobs in those areas, but actually to use all the production that will be coming from the farms that we're talking about. That's 3. Number 4, water. I can't speak in detail about what I'm going to say now, but I'm aware of initiatives relating to water bottling. I'm aware of initiatives relating to the potential export of water in bulk. And I'm aware that there are at least 3 Caribbean islands that have a water emergency, that have run out of water. And even if they have desalination plants, those plants are not going to be able to meet their needs in the short or medium term. So they're going to need water from somewhere else. It is my view that those initiatives, which at the moment are private initiatives, need to be encouraged and facilitated by the state of Dominica. And here's a simple way in which we can facilitate it. The countries that require water in bulk need to have a place to put that water. You see, like how Esso, Shell, NP, West Indies, and Petrocarib all had to build tank farms to store their fuel. We have to build water farms, water tank farms in each one of those islands. We have to do that because it is we who have the water that we want to sell. It is the country of Dominica that needs to do that. We have this surplus money sitting somewhere, I don't know, that's another discussion. But we certainly need to be putting down 4, 5, 8, 9, 10 million Ghana storage capabilities in countries like Antigua, countries like the Virgin Islands that are running out over, even parts of St. Lucia, even parts of St. Vincent. I'm telling you, it cannot go public yet because of other reasons. But I am aware that these initiatives are underway, and I'm aware that there's a kind of embarrassment for the receiving country because they need the product, but they have no place to put it. We need to step in as Dominica and say, okay, we will build the tanks because it's our water that's going to go in those tanks. It's just like Esso will build the tank because it's their fuel that's going into the tanks, and then you will distribute internally. So we need to do that. That's number 4. Number 5, I really feel we need to do a major set of initiatives in the areas, and I put them together, in culture and sports. Because we have a vast, energetic and aggressive segment of our population as young men and women that have nothing to do. We need a cultural center, a national cultural center, where all musicians can go there and get a room to rehearse. Dancers can have a place to rehearse. Singers can have, and you have, model, micro incubator recording studios. I've seen that in the Seychelles. The Seychelles is a little set of islands like Dominica, and they have that. A national cultural center in the center of their capital, which is open 24 hours a day. So there's always a place where you can rehearse, always a place where you can train, and so forth. And the artists and musicians are busy. We need that. I have a location, a suggested location for such a national cultural center.
And where is that?
The current residence of President Savran. Put President Savran in a more modest location, a more modest house. Although modesty in housing does not appear to be the hallmark of this administration, but find a more modest house for him and convert that palace into a national cultural center. Do whatever internal reorganization of space is required. I say that because I saw a building just like that in the Seychelles serving that purpose. And although I haven't done I'm not an architect, but I can see the possibilities for that, and it will can turn it around in a quick time. Sports-wise, we need proper sports facilities. How can we have hopes of competing in the Olympics and we don't have tracks? We don't have a track, a single track up to international standards in Dominica. We need tracks. We need one in the north of the island where a lot of our top athletes are coming from, Portsmouth, Marigot, etc. We need one in the east, maybe not as elaborate, and we certainly need a track, a world-class track in the capital. And what that allows you to do is to begin to run programs in your schools that feed into your amateur and semi-amateur and semi-pro kind of activity, so that thousands of young people can become engaged instantly almost in making productive use of their time. I'm going to stop there for now because
we have to get ready to wrap up.
Yeah, and there are other areas, but I want you to pinpoint those as being what I consider
Your top 5.
critical to the well-being and to the peace of Dominica. I think Dominica is on a knife's edge. We've got to find a way to engage people in productive activity. Drugs of all kinds are beginning to make incursions into Dominica. That's not good. Crime is becoming of a different kind and caliber and level. That is not good. Violence in the home, abuse of children. Another young girl, a 6-year-old girl, was abused by an adult man again this week. So these things are just the warning signs of a lack of peace somewhere in the society. And the energy of our young people, we have to help them channel it into areas where they can, be comfortable and see some possibility of making some kind of a step forward in their life. While we do the other, standard production, expansion things in agriculture, manufacturing, housing, etc., that would absorb them with their skills. But we've got to meet them where they are now. You see lots of young boys riding motorbikes. People see that as a problem. I see that as an opportunity. These young boys should be trained to be motocross riders. And we should facilitate them to go and compete wherever there is motocrossing. They should be trained to ride properly, trained to maintain their bikes, to upgrade their bikes. We need indoor competitions here. We need cross-country competitions, and we need to go to St. Lucia, to Grenada, St. Vincent, and compete there. So that what now appears to be, to many people, almost a frightening thing, can be turned into a positive thing. These guys can become our new heroes. Our new heroes, they can be our Usain Bolts, riding their bikes in competitions, and eventually we can turn on our TV and see motocross, Dominica. You understand? We got to do that.
Athie, we have to wrap it up on the program tonight. I want to give you an opportunity to just share some final comments with us. I think tonight was just absolutely amazing. I mean, there was so much learning and educating that was done, knowledge sharing, information sharing that came from this program tonight, that I see people already saying, bring Athie back. So Athie, some final words from you.
My final word is just simply this. I want to thank the Lord, my Savior, for enlightening me at this stage of my life. This is a stage of life when a lot of my friends they feel they're in the departure lounge, waiting for their flight to be called. No. You see me? I mean, nobody's departure lounge. When the Savior is ready for me, just take end of story. So as long as He's given me the treasure of life and clarity of insight, I'm losing my eyesight, but I'm not losing my insight. And as long as He allows that, I'm going to be doing whatever He tells me to do. And those who don't like that kind of self-assurance, I have one piece of advice. Find your Savior. Find your Savior. Don't allow your money, your house, your car, or your gun to be the determinants of your comfort level in life in Dominica. Because it doesn't work. It doesn't last. For me, I give thanks.
You give thanks.
I just give thanks. Thank you very much for the opportunity to spend some time with you.
Absolute pleasure. And I suspect when I have some time, I'll take up the invite
Absolutely.
to come up to Exotica.
Just remember that I am not the boss.
You're not the boss. Phase.
Absolutely.
But remember, she was the first person I contacted. It wasn't you.
And I'll let you know now. I asked her, should I be doing this? She said, but of course.
But of course. Faye is a lovely lady. I
Well,
love
of
her.
course.
Yes. She
So-
made me a sugar-free fruitcake once.
Mm.
Good stuff. And I see her, I know she's a great cook. So Faye, I will tell you in advance when I'm coming. I'll probably even give you an idea of what I may like.
Ça c'est affaire,
Ça c'est affaire, mais feel pas à ça.
What
What a wonderful program tonight. Thank you so much, Athie, for being here. I truly learned quite a bit. And who knows, maybe we may have a part 2 of Athie Mate on the In the Spotlight radio show. Thank you so much. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Q95. Thank you to our supporters, friends of the show, to everyone. By the way, don't forget, we're working on some of those 1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour shortened versions of the show, specific for social media, so you can look out for that sometime in the month of June.
Is that the time?
It is the time, Athie. That is the time.
Jesus.
That is a wrap. We'll be back next week, Monday, for another In the Spotlight radio show.
Whoa.
You see, time flies on this program when you're having fun. We're having some good fun here.
Okay, thank you. I hope my partner is reading.